The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. I'm John David Wells. What do we do on this broadcast? Why, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We make commentary. That's not news. That's opinion. Yours and mine, and so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. For you TGIF fans, sure happy it's Thursday. It's the 11th of January, year of our Lord, 2024. We've got a special edition of the Wells Report. We're going to move right into the news today. News, comment, and analysis, and all the things we do. Insofar as it was a very big news day yesterday. Lots of things to cover, specifically the CNN debate, the last debate before the Iowa caucuses, which will be next Monday night, unless I miss my guess. So what's going on here is we had a couple of very serious candidates winnowed down to two, specifically former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis clashing last night on CNN. And it may be too little too late to change the dynamics in Iowa. Former President Trump maintains a huge lead there, between 30 and 40 percentage points in most polls, but a strong second place finish in Iowa could keep DeSantis afloat or give Haley much-needed momentum before the January 23rd primary in New Hampshire, a virtual must-win for her to find a path to the nomination when the map quickly expands. And so we found ourselves in a position where the steady, confident, sure-handed Ron DeSantis is up against the incredibly talented, very witty, very smart Nikki Haley, two very good candidates. And while I believe that they are essentially creatures of the political system and therefore not necessarily where the country needs to go right now, insofar as the political system, based on all polling, all questions having to do with the approval rating of the president, the approval rating of Congress, the approval rating of the media, which is playing politics as opposed to reporting the news, which you don't find here, which is probably why you're watching this broadcast. All of these things are coming together insofar as what I consider to be a clarion call to break down this cabal between the media and politics. We've got to do it. And the only way to do that is to essentially depower those that make all this happen. And so when we come to this particular conversation, we find ourselves in a position, or at least I find myself in a position, where I believe that we have a lot of work to do here in the United States, especially as the people of the United States. We have a lot of work to do in this election. Hopefully, our words will be heard. Insofar as last night, let's talk a little bit about what happened. Here is some video of the highlights from the CNN debate for the Republican presidential candidates last night.
The number of people that will be amnestied when I'm president is zero. We cannot do an amnesty in this country. First of all, it's going to do is cause more people to want to come illegally. So you got to enforce the law. It's got to be consistent. People got to know it's there. You also have to remove benefits for people who are here illegally. We should not let states provide these benefits. In Florida, obviously, we don't do that. We don't allow the driver's license and all that. But some states do. And it creates a magnet for people coming in.
You do not have to choose when it comes to national security. This is about keeping Americans safe. This is about preventing war. This is about keeping our military men and women from having to fight a war. And you only do that when you focus on national security, not telling lies to the American people that they have to choose. That is wrong. That's never been the case.
So this is the UN way of thinking, that we're somehow globalists and we have unlimited resources to do. You know, I think here's the problem. You can take the ambassador out of the United Nations, but you can't take the United Nations out of the ambassador.
When you look at Donald Trump, I have said, I think he was the right president at the right time. I agree with a lot of his policies, but his way is not my way. I don't have vengeance. I don't have vendettas. I don't take things personally. For me, it's very much about no drama, no whining, and getting results and getting them done. So I don't think that President Trump is the right president to go forward. I think it's time for a new generational leader that's going to go and make America proud again. That's what I'm going to try and do.
Donald Trump's running to pursue his issues. Nikki Haley's running to pursue her donors' issues. I'm running to pursue your issues. We don't need another mealy-mouthed politician who just tells you what she thinks you want to hear just to try to get your vote, then to get in office and to do her donors' bidding. She was in another state and she said the people of Iowa's votes need to be corrected. This is somebody that wrote in her book that Hillary Clinton inspired her to first run for office. I'm the only one that's going to be able to lead this country's revival. I'm asking for your support, and I won't let you down.
That was a great statement by Ron DeSantis, and they both handled themselves very well. This was a debate, being as how it's only between two people, where the food fight, there were a couple of moments that were contentious and impossible to follow because they were talking over each other. However, that being said, it was still pretty good from a standpoint of just exactly what was happening. There is some interesting information regarding Chris Christie. We're going to get that into the next segment, but I also wanted to talk a little bit about Vivek Ramaswamy and how he was appearing on a podcast, which he said some good things, and I want to, in the interest of being fair and covering all this stuff. This is Vivek Ramaswamy from last night on a podcast on the Wells Report here today.
It was a separate event. It wasn't on that debate stage like you mentioned. Instead, he was on a conservative podcast hosted by Tim Pool since 2018. Now, Ramaswamy opting for this event because he didn't meet those polling requirements by CNN to be on that debate stage. It's the first time during his campaign where he hasn't been on the stage with DeSantis and Haley. Now, this live podcast was at the Ramaswamy headquarters in Des Moines, just a few miles away from Drake University where that debate happened. There were around 100 people who came by to listen to the presidential candidate talk about his opponents in the race, not attending the CNN debate tonight, and reiterating the basis of his campaign, like scrapping long-standing federal agencies.
I'm convinced the right answer is to shut down the failed Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. That's the only answer that remains.
Ramaswamy also brought up immigration, a big issue with Republican candidates, and said as president, he would end birthright citizenship for kids of undocumented immigrants in this country and begin mass deportations across the country.
Stop federal funding for sanctuary cities. We're paying for this. Our federal taxpayer money is actually paying for this facilitation of the domestic transfer to sanctuary cities. And then anybody in this country should be returned to their country of origin if you're here illegally. It's that simple.
And that is Vivek Ramaswamy on a podcast yesterday. Donald Trump also found himself in a position where he was doing a town hall meeting yesterday. And that was an excellent opportunity for the former president to say some things that will decidedly, if I read my political tea leaves correctly, keep him in the front seat of this particular 2024 election season.
If you are the nominee, which I know you expect to be, who would be in the running for vice president?
Well, I can't tell you that really. I mean, I know who it's going to be.
Give us a hint.
We'll do another show sometime.
Can you say tonight that political violence is never acceptable?
Well, of course, that's right. And of course, I'm the one that had very little of it. Take a look at wars. Again, I didn't start. I wasn't involved in wars. We beat the hell out of ISIS. We won 100%. We brought our troops back home. Look at the violence that we've had. Look at the violence we have recently.
There are questions about how much a second term of a Donald Trump presidency, second term, would be about retribution and looking backwards and grievances, and how much would be looking forward?
I'm not going to have time for retribution. We're going to make this country so successful again. I'm not going to have time for retribution. DeSantis, I don't know what he really believes because, you never know with a politician, and he's just another politician as far as I'm concerned. But his poll numbers have gone down to a level that he's going to be out of the race very soon. He's going to be out very soon. I watched him last night. He's standing up with his shoes, his fancy shoes. You like Ron DeSantis, but he wouldn't even be around today. He'd be working in a pizza shop or perhaps a law firm if I didn't endorse him. I endorsed him, took him from nothing to winning an election.
Would you pledge to divest from your business in a second term as other presidents have done?
If I have a hotel and somebody comes in from China, that's a small amount of money. It sounds like a lot of money. That's a small, but I was doing services for that. People were staying in these massive hotels, these beautiful hotels, because I have the best hotels. I have the best clubs. I have I have great stuff. And they stay there and they pay. I don't get $8 million for doing nothing like Hunter. If I didn't win, I think the stock market would crash.
Yeah,
I
but you
believe
said
that the
when there's a crash, I hope it's going to be during this next 12 months because I don't want to be Herbert Hoover.
Well, I think
Just to be
there
clear.
will be a crash if I don't win. And I say that, and I do not want to be Herbert Hoover. It would have never happened in Ukraine. Russia would have never gone in. Would have never happened. The recent attack on Israel would have never happened. 0% chance that was going to happen. They see a weak president in our country, and they did something that was unthinkable. But if you go back and look at the records, you will see that the biggest fan of Dr. Fauci was Ron DeSanctimonious. He was a big fan. He said, I go by, exactly, quote, I go by what Dr. Fauci said. He said that 2 months in, all the way through, and then eventually changed when it wasn't, that wasn't the dessert of the day. If it weren't for me with Roe v. Wade, you wouldn't even be talking about this. You wouldn't be asking that question because we'd right back. I remember this. They're the radicals. We're not the radicals. In the debate with Hillary Clinton, they said, she's willing to rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month.
Would you be committed to NATO, for example, in a second Trump term?
Depends if they treat us properly. The reason they have money right now to prosecute what they're doing with helping Ukraine is because of the money I got them.
Yeah. So the president of the former president of the United States, arguably among a lot of people besides this reporter, won the debate last night again, insofar as it does appear that Donald Trump has, at least a few days before the Iowa caucuses, Donald Trump has an insurmountable lead. And I found it interesting that one of the first points they covered in last night's town hall on Fox News was the fact that Donald Trump knows who he wants his running mate to be. I can't see that it's going to be anybody except Ron DeSantis. I suppose Nikki Haley has an outside chance of that, but I'm just not sure that that's going to be the case. And so when we look at all of this and we think about those things, I just happen to believe that for the best chance for Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, that Ron DeSantis is the guy. Now, he is the coming man in the Republican Party. He does represent a bridge between the populist idea, and this is just my opinion. Please, don't take this to the bank. Just because it dribbles out of my mouth doesn't mean that this is it for all things and all people. No, I'm not the Oracle of Delphi. First of all, I'm not female and I'm not drunk this time. Anyway, so what we've got here is we've got a bridge to the future for the Republican Party between the populism of Trump and the typical business of the Republican Party. Now, I got to be honest with you. I think that the Republican Party is bankrupt from a situation of ideas and leadership. And I don't think I'm the only one that thinks so. As a matter of fact, I think you think so. I think the Republican Party has lost its way. It wants to be all things to all people, very much like Mitt Romney. It wants to bridge the gap between the two parties. Its watchword is bipartisanship, which I find unfortunate. Because in order to have a two-party system that functions properly, it has to be adversarial, with both parties agreeing on one very important unifying principle, and that would be the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, and all the things that those two documents give us, like, for example, equal justice under the law, and a nation that is ruled by law, not men, or, God forbid, politics. A nation of law, fairness, equity, equitable opportunity, equity between all people in the United States, equity not being used as a buzzword to be able to say, okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to turn racism on its head and exploit that. No, that's not the point. What we want to do is be equal. Back in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells thanking you very much for being here. Michelle Larrabee has checked in, and Michelle is from Massachusetts. Last we heard, she didn't have any electricity there because everything is frozen in Massachusetts. It's so cold up there, electrons won't move. I don't know what's going on there. All I can say is burr. So, like we were talking about, Governor Ron DeSantis, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, they were on the debate stage with CNN. And once again, no ballots have been cast yet. No caucus results yet. And yet we keep losing Republican presidential candidates left and right. We've lost a bunch of them, even before any vote was ever cast. Vivek Ramaswamy being left out of this, and indeed, Chris Christie has walked away. We're going to have complete coverage on that coming up in just a couple of moments, including a hot mic moment that put a little scorched earth on everything that Chris Christie was trying to get accomplished. But let's talk a little bit about exactly who won the debate. I brought this up just before the break. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, sharing the debate stage in Iowa 5 days before the state's caucuses. They spend much of their 2-hour showdown attacking each other and disagreeing on policy. That allowed the absent frontrunner in the GOP race, former President Donald Trump, to emerge relatively unscathed in a debate that was held a couple of hours after another contender, this former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, suspended his campaign. Trump, who skipped a Republican date for the 5th straight time since last summer, was a few miles away in downtown Des Moines, taking part in a Fox News town hall. The verbal fireworks ignited moments into the debate. DeSantis charged that Haley was a mealy-mouthed politician who just tells you what she thinks you want to hear, just to try to get your vote. Haley immediately hit back. What we're going to do is rather than have him go and tell you all these lies, you can go to DeSantisLies.com and look at all of those. So indeed, there's a real campaign going on. The question is, who's it for? And what job is it for? According to American polling, it's certainly not for president, certainly not from the Republican side of the conversation. The Republican side of the conversation is pretty much set up 20, 30 points ahead for former President Donald Trump. And so none of the things that have been thrown at former President Donald Trump seem to be sticking, at least from a standpoint of people who say what they're going to do from a standpoint of voting. And that leaves Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis competing for second place. And certainly they haven't landed any blows against Donald Trump. And that's true for Chris Christie, who we're going to talk about here in just a couple of moments. Chris Christie has been pounding on Donald Trump as a center point of his campaign the entire time he's been in the race. Nothing has landed. There are DOJ charges against President Trump. There are New York charges against President Trump. There are Georgia charges against President Trump. Again, nothing seems to land. There are a lot of people trying to make a big deal out of the fact, well, if Donald Trump is convicted, Well, the thing about it is, where would he be convicted? In New York? He's not going to get convicted in New York. New York is a mess. That case is a mess. And Arthur Engoron can probably just ignore the law if he wants to, at the risk of his place on the bench. That is judicial misconduct. As far as Georgia is concerned, the prosecutor is essentially using the case to be able to endow her fiance or boyfriend or whatever that is, and they've been handsy-footsy, for gosh knows how long. That case is in the weeds. And Jack Smith may be turned aside by the appeals court regarding presidential immunity, and that includes the Supreme Court of the United States. Either way, I don't see any of these things moving forward before Election Day. And even if they do, I don't think they'll matter. How about you? Do you think so? Do you think not? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. It is the Wells Report. By the way, if you find value in this broadcast, share it with your friends, subscribe to it, hit the notification buttons, give us a thumbs up, and we would appreciate that immensely. The Wells Report in progress for Thursday, January 11th. Back with more in just a moment.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells, thanking you very much for joining us. Chris Christie has walked away from the 2024 presidential campaign. He suspended his campaign yesterday evening. NBC has a report on that. We want to bring that to you. But Chris Christie walking away from a campaign that seemed to only have one purpose. First, here is the announcement courtesy of NBC.
days away from the Iowa caucuses, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie announcing just a short time ago he is suspending his campaign for the Republican nomination. Christie has been promising to do whatever is necessary to keep Donald Trump from winning the Republican nomination. CBS's Ed O'Keefe reports tonight from Des Moines.
It's the right thing for me to do.
In an impassioned speech tonight, Chris Christie said he was reluctant to exit, but could no longer see a path to victory and didn't want to help Donald Trump get back to the Oval Office.
I'm going to make sure that in no way do I enable Donald Trump to ever be president of the United States again. And that's more important than my own personal ambition.
The former New Jersey governor explicitly campaigned to block Trump, frequently calling out other rivals for failing to more forcefully denounce him.
I would rather lose by telling the truth than lie in order to win, because this is a fight for the soul of our party and the soul of our country.
And he had a final warning for voters.
Anyone who is unwilling to say that he is unfit to be president of the United States is unfit themselves.
And that is Chris Christie, who has suspended his campaign. Okay, so Chris Christie walks away. There are a few things in that I want to address here. That Chris Christie had a one-issue campaign, and that was to try to damage Donald Trump as much as possible. He failed. He failed. And that's something that is something that is, I looked at it and I was seeing it and I couldn't help but think that the Republican National Committee was behind his candidacy the entire time. Now, Chris Christie is a guy who said in his statement that this was a fight for the soul of the Republican Party. It is. The fight is between an electorate, a Republican electorate that is tired of Republican politicians doing nothing. They're doing nothing. They have a history of doing nothing. They have a history of conciliatory politics to benefit Democrats. Now, this is not a partisan statement on my part. I'm not a Republican. I'm a constitutional conservative. Reasonable constitutional conservative. But the simple case of the matter is the Republican Party is useless as we come to this particular election cycle. And yeah, it's a fight for the soul of the Republican Party, at least as far as Republicans are concerned. The Democrats keep pointing at Donald Trump and saying, well, he wants to be a dictator, he wants to be an authoritarian, he wants to destroy the nation, he's a threat against democracy. They have a similar problem that the Republicans do. The similar problem is it's not democracy that Donald Trump threatens to upend, it's democracy. This is the idea that the Democrat Party is all-knowing and all-willing and all-benevolent and all-perfect, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and they're not. They simply aren't. The Republican Party does nothing. The Democrat Party does worse than nothing, in my view. Again, not a partisan statement. It's just my opinion. The Democrat Party is trying to disassemble the things that make America America. They've done it before. But so far, the American people have rejected their ideas. You just don't have a president at the forefront of the progressive left movement with an abysmal approval rating and believe that you have anything that the people of the United States want. You just don't. You just don't. So the Republicans, fighting for the heart and soul of their party, they're saying, my gosh, we've got to maintain the status quo of enabling leftist Democrat policy, or we're going to have to follow the Trump idea of Republicans voting for the man, not the party. It's populism, and it is a threat, not just to the Republican Party, but also to the Democrat Party, especially when you look at the Democrat Party approval numbers and the Republican Party approval numbers. Newt Gingrich said famously years and years ago when he was talking about the Reagan Revolution, we got to throw the bums out. We do. All of them. How much farther apart can Americans be? How much more division can we endure? If you're a Democrat, your Democrat candidates, your Democrat Party members aren't doing anything for you. And you know they're not doing anything for you because you have to buy a tank of gas in a few days. You got to go to the grocery store in a few days. You have an election coming up. Does your vote even matter insofar as there's an entire electorate being imported over the southern border? The Democrat Party has no issue to argue except that Donald Trump is some kind of horror figure, equating him to Hitler, Satan. I mean, that's really amazing. This actually came out in the mainstream media where people are trying to equate Donald Trump with Satan. Okay, so it's the better part of a year before the election. Where do you go from Satan? The problem is you don't go anywhere from Satan. Sooner or later, you're going to have to start talking about the issues. And as soon as you start talking about the issues, if you're the Democrats, you have major problems. You have major problems. Donald Trump is out in front because Donald Trump has the best take on the best issues at the best moment as far as those being asked about, Republican voters, eligible voters, intending voters. He has the best message. He's winning because he's got the best message for the people of the United States. Now, will there be some form of legerdemain in the 2024 election having to do with the way the election is handled? We do not know. We don't know. I am not an election conspiracy theorist regarding 2020. But we still don't know whether that election was on the up and up. We don't know. I'm perfectly willing to believe it is, but we don't know. There are a lot of people that will beat you in the face and say, yes, we do know. And if you don't believe me, well, screw you. Well, that's not democracy. That's not a democratic republic. That's fascist, bellicose, shut the hell up or I'll hurt you. What good is that? What good is that in the public sphere? In the marketplace of ideas? What good is shutting up your opponent with bellicose rhetoric? Baseless charges against somebody who's arguing with you? It's pointless. And we have an entire political process built around that pointlessness. So Chris Christie is a guy who's walking away, but on his way out the door, he sort of kind of made, well, what's the word? A scorched earth mistake. At least the way that's the way I see it. Check this out. This was Chris Christie on a hot mic moment.
There was a hot mic moment, we talked about it a little bit ago in the show, in which he was apparently talking, presumably about Nikki Haley, suggesting that, again, presumably her, could get smoked. So let me play a little bit of that hot mic moment now for people.
Spent $68 million so far, $59 million by DeSantis, and we spent 12. I mean, who's punching above their weight and who's getting a return on their investment, And she's going to get smoked. And you and I both know it. She's not up to this.
She hasn't even been. She's still 20 points behind Trump in New Hampshire, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he's still going to carry Iowa, right?
Yes. Always. I talked to DeSantis called me petrified that I would.
He's probably getting out after Iowa.
Well,
yeah. So this is Chris Christie making an offhand comment that I guess he didn't believe was going to get covered anywhere. She's going to get smoked, and you and I both know it. She's not up to this. This is talking to Haley. So here's Chris Christie who's saying that Donald Trump is morally impaired and absolutely wrong for the nation. Now he says that Nikki Haley is not up to this. She's going to get smoked. And then she also goes on to say that DeSantis called, saying that DeSantis is petrified. New Hampshire campaign chair Wayne McDonald confirmed to CNN he was on the other end of the conversation. So he was talking to New Hampshire campaign chair Wayne McDonald. Now, that's a guy that's solidly in the camp of Chris Christie. I mean, he's the campaign chair. But so who's good enough to win the presidency or win the presidential nomination as far as Chris Christie is concerned? The answer is no one. He recognizes that he's not the guy. He recognizes that and absolutely campaigns that Trump is not the guy. He says that Nikki Haley is in over her head. She's going to get smoked. And he says that Ron DeSantis is petrified. I don't know what he's talking about. All I can tell you is that if we take these in order, we can say it this way. Chris, you might think, like your Democrat colleagues, and I'm just going to lay it on the table like that. Chris Christie, you might think that you're like your Democrat colleagues believe that Donald Trump is Satan. Okay? The people of the United States disagree. You may say that Ron DeSantis is petrified. Oh my God, he's petrified. Ron DeSantis has never looked more in control and sure of himself in the last month than he has at any other time in his campaign. This guy is coming into his own. He's hitting his stride. He is making excellent points. Is he flashy? No. But is he factual, pragmatic? Yes. Is that going to be attractive to a lot of people? Sure. My only kick with Ron DeSantis is he's a machine politician. Do we need another one of those? Nikki Haley, witty, smart, fierce. She's a serious candidate. And I believe that if she was running for the presidency at any other time, any other election cycle, she'd be in the thick of it. Same thing with Ron DeSantis. I believe that if Donald Trump wasn't in the room, that we would have another choice of another standard Republican politician, but we would have a very good campaign with two very good candidates. But that's not where the Republican Party is. The Republican Party is interested in the populist issues represented by former President Donald Trump. And as far as Trump is concerned, like I said a moment ago, and once again, I'm not saying I have voted for Donald Trump twice. Am I going to vote for him a third time? I don't know yet. I don't have any idea. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for something else to happen. But as it stands now, Donald Trump is the runaway leader for this nomination. And as I have said time and time again, the Democrat Party running against Donald Trump can only say that he's the worst thing in the world since the plague. He's Satan. He's Hitler. He's this. He's that. Now, you are putting some hanging curveballs out when you start talking about Donald Trump and all of his legal issues, that he's Satan, that he's Hitler, et cetera, et cetera. There is no doubt about the fact that the Biden family has been doing business with China. No one knows how many people Mao Zedong killed in China during the Cultural Revolution. It's anywhere from 20 to 100 million people dead from China. That's like 10% of their population. And Biden doesn't have any problem whatsoever doing business with the Chinese, the Biden family. Okay. All right, well, that's a problem. But they want to say that Trump is cozying up to Hitler. Well, how much more cozying up do you have to get to a world despot that has murdered hundreds of millions of people than the Biden family with Mao Zedong? See, these are just some of the things that could be talked about in the upcoming campaign between these two people, between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Biden leaves. There's a pundit out there saying that Joe Biden will be out of the race by May. I don't know who they're going to get. They're certainly not going to get Kamala Harris. There are rumors that Kamala Harris wants to spend more time with her family. Really? She doesn't have a chance. They're stuck with Joe Biden. But like I said, he's one serious fall coming down the stairs of Air Force One from being out of the race. One more rambling, incoherent discourse about something that never ever happened away from completely destroying any credibility with any voter, let alone Democrat or Republican. All they can do is attack Trump. That's all they've got. So do you want to elect somebody that runs on an entire platform of Trump is Satan? Or do you want somebody to lead the nation? That's the way I see it. How do you see it? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. More of the Wells Report coming up.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. Telephone number 817-379-2172. If you have a comment on anything that you've seen on the debate last night, what Chris Christie has done, what Donald Trump has said. He had a great night on a live town hall on Fox last night. He absolutely did. He is, I'm sure he's not listening to anything that I'm saying, but somebody is telling him the right things because he was presidential. He was straightforward. He made very few off the cuff and thus shooting himself in the foot remarks. He was very good last night. And will the American people believe that Donald Trump is the answer moving forward in 2024? Speaking of President Trump, this is breaking news. Closing arguments in former President Trump's New York civil fraud trial are underway this morning as the leading 2024 GOP frontrunner once again briefly departs the campaign trail for another courtroom appearance. This is being reported by The Hill. Trump is on the front row. His legal team, state lawyers, make their final case in a matter which the Attorney General, that is Letitia James, is asking for Trump to be barred from New York real estate, the entire industry, and force him to pay nearly $370 million in penalties for falsifying financial records. Trump is asked to deliver his own closing remarks. The judge would not allow it because Trump and his legal team wouldn't agree to parameters that guaranteed he would stick to matters relevant to the case. How convenient. Here are some of the live updates from the Hill. This from approximately, 21 minutes ago? No, it's sooner than that. Here's what's going on. Trump lawyer Chris Kise argued before the judge that not one witness testified the former President Trump committed the widespread fraud alleged by New York Attorney General Letitia James. The Attorney General is seeking to strip down to put a person part of the fabric of the commercial real estate industry in this city and state for 50 years out of business. For what? For nothing, said Kise. The arguments echo those Trump's counsel have made throughout the trial that banks wanted to work with the Trump organization and did their own due diligence. Former President Trump arrived at the New York Supreme Court where closing arguments are being heard. He stopped to talk to the media outside the courtroom. He blasted the case for being politically motivated. Trump also said his team plans to hold a news conference this afternoon in Manhattan, the timing of which is not known. We'll keep our eyes on it. And if indeed they have that press conference, then we will certainly cover that in a special report here on the Wells Report a little bit later on today. Authorities responded to a bomb threat at the home of the judge overseeing former President Donald Trump's New York civil fraud case. This hours before closing arguments. The court official confirmed to the Associated Press today that police were looking into a threat at Judge Arthur Engoron's home on Long Island. Look, I want to make this abundantly clear. This is not the way to do anything having to do with supporting Donald Trump. Now, we don't know who's doing this. This could be somebody who is trying to damage Donald Trump, trying to damage the MAGA movement by portraying us all as a bunch of hooligans, vandals, what have you. And the thing about it is that every time somebody who is actually a Trump supporter, actually a Republican, actually an activist that believes in Donald Trump, every time they call and make a threat of that kind, it lends credibility to the idea that this is happening. Swatting people, for example. In other words, calling the SWAT teams and saying, hey, some political figure is, in the middle of a home invasion or something along that line. You can't do it that way. If you know somebody that is doing it, tell the police. We've got to clean this one up. Because if the people that believe in the democratic process of the United States, not the Democrat process, the democratic process of the United States, the Republican, not the Republican Party, but the Republican representative democracy in these United States. Those people have to make sure that they have their hands clean in all of this, which means you can only do two things. One, don't take part in all of this threat making. Two, turn in anybody who does make threats immediately. Now, the mainstream media isn't going to tell that story, but there you go. The only thing you can do is just be right and do the right thing. By all means, please do so. Because all that leaves are people who do the wrong thing, who are manipulating the circumstance. The mainstream media's one-sided assurance that Joe Biden is the answer to all problems in the United States. That's the only way you can handle any of this, in my opinion. So don't do it. The former president is there in the courtroom. It has morphed into an unexpected campaign stop as he juggles legal troubles in his 2024 presidential bid. He's not required to attend the fraud trial. He has regularly made appearances to decry the case as politically motivated, like he did this morning. And once again, if indeed the Trump campaign team or the Trump defense team has a press conference, expect a special report on this platform from the Wells Report on it as soon as we find out more about it. It'll be short, it'll be sweet, it'll be good, and we'll see just exactly what happens. But this is clearly according to most people, including most Democrats. This is a political mess that is being perpetrated on the nation by Letitia James. And so we are at the end of the first hour of the Wells Report. If you find value in this show, share it with your friends, subscribe, hit the notification button. Give us thumbs ups. Those are really important. And oh, by the way, if you'd like to support us financially, go to patreon.com/The Wells Report. Back with hour number 2 next.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning for the Wells Report, and make sure you share us with all your friends on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon, and don't forget to check out our Substack column, which will be coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. When you do all this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us those thumbs up. They are really important. Check the notification box so you know when we're on the air, and whatever you do, join us every morning, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time, for the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning, I'm John David Wells. What do we do on this broadcast? We report the news, honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for both fact and bias. We point out both. In other words, we de-propagandize the mainstream media, leaving, hopefully, the news, the facts, that which you need to know. We do make commentary. That's not news. Commentary is opinion, yours and mine, and so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Thanks very much for being with us this morning. Lots of news yesterday, and we've covered a bunch of it. And Donald Trump back in the news yet again, insofar as there are final arguments being heard in the New York Supreme Court in a civil situation that could cost the Trump Organization $370 million in their ability to make a living in New York real estate, anywhere in the state, courtesy of Attorney General Letitia James. That argument, that entire case, is bankrupt on the merits. The only thing that is propelling it is a judge that is willing to put himself ahead of the greatest banking concerns in the world and the common way things have been done in New York real estate with regards to valuation of properties. He's putting himself in front of that. So is the Attorney General. If it wasn't for the fact that I believe, and I make this statement cautiously, because one of the things in the United States that helps us is our belief in benevolent leadership. Our belief, the psychological understanding that our nation is not trying to hurt us. But in this particular case, I can't see that Judge Engoron hasn't already made up his mind. He's horribly biased. He pronounced Donald Trump guilty before the trial started. And now what he's going to do is he's going to listen to these arguments, and depending on his level of, okay, here it comes, personal corruption, we'll see what happens with Donald Trump. I'm not so much worried about Donald Trump, the candidate, Donald Trump, the former president of the United States. I'm thinking about Donald Trump, the businessman. I'm thinking about the political process surrounding Donald Trump insofar as he is a polarizing picture or a polarizing figure, or at least is being portrayed as a polarizing figure to the point where other politicians will run specifically to, quote, get Trump. And a lot of these people are the same people that say, my God, President Trump is going to have a vengeance presidency. Well, what are you doing with Donald Trump and Letitia James and so on and so forth? What are you doing with that? Is that not revenge? And revenge for what? Anybody doing business with Donald Trump said, "Hey, we love doing business with President Trump. The guy pays his bills early. Everybody makes money. Life's great." But that's not good enough for the court. That's not good enough for Letitia James. And so, what we stand on the precipice of is having the wonderful idea that anybody doing a business deal in New York regarding real estate is going to have to pass some kind of judicial muster with regard to the free market practices of New York real estate. It doesn't make any difference what you value your property at. It doesn't make any difference what the bank values that property as being. It's what the court thinks. Oh, you don't have to worry about that. We're not going to go after anybody but Donald Trump. So how is that not selective prosecution? I mean, are you going to do business in New York? If you have a property there, or if you want a property there, are you going to do business in New York until they get this worked out? No. No, you're not. Because that's a way to find yourself on the receiving end of Letitia James calling you a fraud. Here's what I see. I see this as a plain abuse of power by Letitia James. I think she's going to end up being disbarred. Same story with Judge Engoron. Arthur Engoron is essentially arbitrating his last case. There is no way that he can continue as a judge for any reason after sullying himself with bias regarding President Trump. He has to ignore the facts in order to find Donald Trump guilty. And what's his alternative? Finding Trump not guilty? Or finding Trump guilty and finding him $1? And throwing out the idea that President Trump can't do business in New York ever again from a standpoint of real estate or anything else? Is that what he's going to do? Is he going to throw this all in the weeds? Well, he has to choose. He has to choose between his politics or his future career. But something tells me that Engoron is ready to quit. And on his way out the door, very much like Chris Christie, he's going to practice the little scorched earth based on his politics. Okay. All right, that's fine. What will it mean to the people of the United States? What will it mean to Trump supporters? Will Donald Trump appeal this to the federal courts? I don't know. Will the federal courts take it? Again, I don't know. But it's a mess. It should never have been undertaken in the first place. It's like this emoluments mess. My God, President Trump collected $8 million from people staying in his hotels. Emoluments. I'm going, okay. First of all, he divested himself of his personal interest in the Trump Organization, turning everything over to his kids. So he didn't make $8 million. The Trump Organization made $8 million. If it's that much, I don't think it's that much. But the man has a business. He has built things like hotels. Like he has purchased golf courses and made them better. He's done a lot of things that are very attractive to people with money that want to hang out at Trump facilities. I don't believe it's necessary for someone being in the presidency to take an oath of poverty. God knows the mainstream people in charge of the various political parties, they don't take a vow of poverty. They sure don't. Nancy Pelosi, $25 a pint ice cream. No, they don't take a vow of poverty. As a matter of fact, of all the people that I've named in that particular part of the conversation, the only one that has taken a vow of poverty is, you guessed it, Donald Trump, who donated his presidential salary. It's $400,000 a year. It's probably not a whole lot of money to Donald Trump, but it's a whole lot of money to everybody else, and certainly the people that were on the receiving end of it because Donald Trump gave it away. This is rotten. Vladimir Putin nailed it. The state of American politics is rotten. And that rot extends well beyond President Trump. It does. And it extends well beyond the Democrat Party. Well beyond the Democrat Party. The Republicans are just as guilty as anybody else of essentially trying to sabotage Donald Trump. And for the very same reasons. Donald Trump actually read the Constitution. We, the people of the United States of America, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Do you believe that Nancy Pelosi believes that? Chuck Schumer? Hakeem Jeffries? Mitch McConnell? Kevin McCarthy? Paul Ryan? Do you believe that any of those people believe that this is a government of, for, and by the people? Nope. Nope. They believe it is the political plaything. The entire American people, the entire American government is the political plaything of their political colleagues. And they don't care who they ruin, how many American voters they ignore, how many American voters they disenfranchise. No, you can't vote for President Trump because he's not on the ballot. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Yeah, we're going to disqualify President Trump. We're going to turn everything over to the Justice Department. We're going to nail him on some flimsy thing from the Civil War, and we're going to render. As a matter of fact, he hasn't been charged with insurrection, but judges have already ruled that he has completed an insurrection and have taken him off the ballot, including someone in Maine who just on her own hook, by her own politics, just took President Trump off the ballot. What? The Supreme Court's going to fix it. And I can hardly wait for that decision. Because if that's not a 9-0 decision, we have huge trouble in these United States. There is no basis, none, for taking Donald Trump off a ballot anywhere and disenfranchising all those voters. How can you say President Trump is a threat to democracy when it's actually democracy? How can you say that President Donald Trump is a threat to democracy when the people that are opposing Donald Trump are doing their best to disqualify him from ballots? Who people vote for is none of their business, even if it is Donald Trump. To believe otherwise is to believe that there is no rule of law, there's no equal protection under that law, that we are a nation of politics, not law. And it all comes down to one guy and a political movement, like 25,000 people. That would be all the people that are the mainstays of American politics of both parties and the mainstream media. 25,000 people leading this entire nation around by its nose. Are you kidding me? You know, a lot of people will say that Donald Trump is Satan, all this stuff, blah, 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 and that the Democrat Party is trying to destroy the nation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's 25,000 people. I don't sit here and talk to Republicans. I don't sit here and talk to conservatives. I sit here and talk to everybody. I invite them to talk back. Oh, by the way, 817-379-2172. This is where we come together to figure this stuff out. The very idea that there are people saying that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, all the while trying to circumvent democracy for the sake of their politics, should light the hypocrisy light, the warning light on your personal dashboard so brightly that you have to wince to protect yourself from the message. I don't see it any more plain than that. I guess I could be wrong. Then how would you or I run for city council seat if a judge or mayor wouldn't let us on the ballot? Exactly. Yeah. And they say Trump is a threat to democracy? Really? That was Yvonne Field. Yvonne, thanks very much for joining us today. You too. Our telephone number 817-379-2172. Back with more of this broadcast on a very busy news day as we continue on Thursday. This is the 11th day of January, 2024. Back in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. Telephone number 817-379-2172. Thanks very much for joining us. So, the Biden administration last Monday warned the Supreme Court that hundreds of thousands of deportation cases could be reset and sent back into the immigration system if Supreme Court justices rule against the administration on a key case regarding the use of immigration notices. The remarks came during oral arguments in a case related to notices to appear, NTAs, orders given to illegal immigrants before they are released into the interior to appear before an immigration court. However, sometimes those documents, when issued, do not include a court date and only say TBD. A separate court date is later mailed to the immigrants in those instances. Oh, really? Listen, in any kind of a legal document from the government to an individual, regardless of the reason, regardless of the national station that these people possess or don't possess, if it does not have who, what, when, where, why, how, it's not legal. So in other words, all of these notices to appear with an appearance date of TBD, they're not legal. They're not legal at all. They're not a legal paper. And so if those papers say, you got to be at this address so that we can mail you other stuff, it doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with anything. And oh, by the way, the Biden administration saying, my goodness gracious, hundreds of thousands of deportation cases could be reset and sent back to the immigration system. Really? It's almost like they're admitting that, gosh, you know what? We let these people in just because we let them in with no real obligation for them to do anything having to do with following our laws. And my goodness gracious, if the Supreme Court says that we're doing it the wrong way, then we'll never get them deported. You're never going to get them deported in the first place. This kind of absurdity, this kind of foolish idiocy is something I don't have any idea how the Biden administration thinks they can get away with this. First of all, nobody believes that President Biden has any interest whatsoever in deporting anybody. I would venture to say that in the entire Biden administration, less than, 20,000 people have been deported? Oh, come on, President Biden. What are you thinking? He must believe that we're just plain idiots. That's the only thing that I can think of. Just plain morons. Well, we're not. We're simply not. There is a ridiculous problem at the border. There is a ridiculous problem because of Biden administration policies. There are impeachable offenses on the part of the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, lying to the American people saying, oh, that border's secure. Secure from what? It's not secure from people coming to the United States illegally. Come on. Come on. And so here we go. The remarks came during this oral argument in this notice to appear case. If the immigrant does not turn up for that hearing, they can be ordered deported in absentia. How many hundreds of thousands of people that are here illegally are already eligible for deportation in absentia? That's the point. Dips. It's ridiculous. Nearly everybody here illegally is subject to deportation in absentia. What are you doing? But if the Supreme Court rules against the Biden administration, by golly, we won't be able to deport anybody. Not that we plan to anyway. Gotta be joking. This is the Wells Report. There are a couple of other stories that are incredibly important. One involves Ray Epps. The other one involves the Secretary of Defense of the United States. We're going to get to both of those and some shocking sports news as we continue here on the Wells Report. Thanks very much for being a part of our broadcast. Telephone number again, 817-379-2172. Back with more in a moment.
Nobody wants wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells thanking you for being a part of our broadcast. Telephone number 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. So let's see. What do we got here? Susan Bunce-Wachtel. Susan, thanks very much for coming back to the Wells Report. It's good to have you here. The Biden administration shouldn't be getting away with it, but sadly thus far, they are not held accountable. It's stupidity and absolute incompetence. The Justice Department isn't doing a thing. Corrupt through and through, incompetent. I don't believe that it's Biden running the show. I don't think so either. And I said this in the run-up to the 2020 election. I said, if you're planning on voting for Joe Biden, who are you actually voting for? You have no idea who you're voting for. As far as I know, the President of the United States is actually Jake Sullivan. Young guy, smart. You know, he's running the show. But where is he taking his orders? We don't know. I've said it was very much like the old Soviet Union, something called the Presidium. A group of people behind the Politburo, a group of people behind the legislature of the Soviet Union that made all the decisions. The General Secretary simply explained those decisions. He was the figurehead. He took the slings and arrows if the policy didn't work. There was never any accountability for the policies never working, because obviously the only thing that could possibly happen in the Soviet Union if government policy didn't work was sabotage. Those darn citizens, they're the problem. The government's perfect, but the citizens are the problem. Well, that kind of resonance is reverberating through the United States of America as we speak, specifically over something called January 6th. There is news on January 6th today being reported by USA Today. A defendant in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol who was the target of, quote, baseless conspiracy theories that he was an undercover federal agent who encouraged the mob to violence was sentenced yesterday, or day before yesterday, to probation rather than prison. We're talking about Ray Epps. We point out bias on this broadcast. A defendant in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol who was the target of baseless conspiracy theories. He wasn't the target of baseless conspiracy theories. I'll get to more of that coming up in just a couple of moments. Ray Epps, 62, formerly of Queen Creek, Arizona, pled guilty in September to disruptive conduct on restricted grounds at the Capitol. He had to move to another state over threats to his life. I've learned that the truth is not always found in the places I used to trust, said Epps, who asked for mercy before learning his sentence. I am regretful, remorseful, deeply sorry, and angry at myself for attending the protest, Epps said in a letter to the judge. USA Today reports that right-wing media personalities and politicians, including former President Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Senator Ted Cruz, called Epps an outside instigator, seeking to advance a false narrative that the January 6th riot, which interrupted the certification of President Joe Biden's 2020 victory, was the work of federal law enforcement agencies. Once again, that's biased. That's biased. That is not a false narrative. It is a narrative. It may be false. It may not be false. At this particular moment, we're still trying to figure all that out. I'm trying to figure out why people dressed in Trump outfits walk up to an official, some sort of security official, if not the Capitol Police itself, and then show a badge. What's that? That's on video. USA Today is not talking about it, but who are those people? I'm trying to explain that. I'm trying to figure that out in my own head. Prosecutors asked for 6 months in prison and $500 in restitution. U.S. District Judge James Boasberg sentenced him to 12 months of probation and $500 in restitution, no prison time. Judge Boasberg said, you were hounded out of your home. You were hounded out of your town. While a relatively minor figure among the thousands of rioters that day, some participants and observers argued that Epps appeared to stoke the crowd outside the Capitol. He did. He was accused of being a government agent seeking to discredit and entrap Trump supporters. He may not actually be a government agent, but if he wasn't a government agent, and the government was interested in trying to entrap as many people as possible, which they've done, by the way, then why in heaven's name would a guy who is on camera doing exactly those things not be thought of as a federal agent? Which takes us back to the part of the article which says, hey, what was it? Falsely seeking to advance a false narrative that that President Biden's the January 6th riot was perpetrated by federal agents. Why wouldn't people think that? Why wouldn't people think that Ray Epps was a federal agent? It's perfectly reasonable for them to. There is reporting. We have it for you. This is from The Hill. Check this out. This is Robbie Suave and his friend. I don't know who she is, but they talk a little bit about this Ray Epps case. Check it out.
Prosecutors say military veteran and Oath Keepers chapter president Ray Epps should face just 6 months of jail time for his alleged role in the January 6th Capitol riot. Assistant United States Attorney Michael Gordon said in the 29-page sentencing memo that Epps committed felonious conduct that day, but prosecutors acknowledged that Epps was targeted by an alleged conspiracy theory that, quote, falsely suggested he was an undercover government agent during the riot, per NBC News.
Prosecutors said, quote, other than his 4 years in the Marines, Epps has never been a federal agent. In the aftermath of the alleged conspiracies forced Epps to sell his business, move to a different state, and live reclusively. Epps is scheduled to be sentenced next week.
Yes. So I see a lot of conservative chatter about this. So obviously he is getting off lightly because he helped the government's case, he cooperated, et cetera. There has been a long theory promulgated by some conservatives that he was a government asset. No evidence of that has ever been presented. However, I do find if you just consider the side by side, they actually have Ray Epps on video at both the riot itself and the day before, urging people to storm the Capitol, to go into the building, being called out for doing so, clearly on camera. And he's going to get 6 months. Whereas someone like, Enrique Tarrio, who wasn't even there on January 6th, gets 20 plus years, terrorism charges. That's the reality when you cooperate or don't cooperate, I guess. And actually, Enrique Tarrio was in the past a government asset. We're adding a whole new wrinkle to this, but I think some on the right are far from seeing this as disproving that he was an asset, are going to see a double standard at play.
There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. By the way, in case you're wondering just exactly what else happened to some of those people involved, well, the Justice Department is talking a little bit about some of those guys. Let me see if I can find this for you. Yeah, here we go. Stand by just a moment. Oh, yeah. Oath Keepers. And remember, Ray Epps is an Oath Keeper. Elmer Stewart Rhodes III, 58 years of age, of Granbury, Texas, the founder and leader of the Oath Keepers, and Kelly Meggs, 54, of Dunedin, Florida, the leader of the Florida chapter of the organization, sentenced today for seditious conspiracy and other charges related to the breach of the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Rhodes was sentenced to 18 years. Meggs was sentenced to 12 years. Really? Well, by all means. Isn't that just horrible? The answer is, of course, yes. It is very horrible. It is an awful situation. Not the fact that that seditious conspiracy is the issue. What bugs me about the whole thing is that Ray Epps isn't being charged like that. I mean, I'm sorry, but was it just my imagination, or was he wearing camouflage and tactical gear? You know what? He was wearing camouflage and tactical gear. Was he not? Yeah. Was he an Oath Keeper? Yeah. Remember, Oath Keepers were the bane of American existence. They were the worst people ever. Okay, so what's the story there? And now Ray Epps suddenly gets $500 and 12 months probation. Really? Huh. Yeah, I don't think that's going to fly. I think that that's going to be something that causes more questions than answers. And I think it should. Hang on a minute here. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that being said, Ray Epps. Now, there's also something else going on, and I'm gonna have to start this because I just had a small little technical malfunction, and what I have to do is get this cleared so that I can play this particular video if I have it, and I do. And let me bring that to you. Let me get rid of this, and let me see if I can get this going. It would be nice if I can. This is Steve Doocy talking with Admiral John Kirby, and this has to do with a circumstance having to do with Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and some surgery he had, and the president not being aware of it. Check this out on Fox News.
What kind of commander-in-chief is President Biden that at a time when American forces are under fire in the Middle East, he can go days without knowing that his defense secretary is in a hospital bed?
Peter, there's a lot to your question, so I want you to bear with me for just a second. First of all, at no time was the ability for the United States military to defend our national security interests compromised. At no time was the commander-in-chief not always in command and control of our military forces around the world. And over the course of those days, we did take military action that he approved, taking out a senior militia commander in Iraq with what we call a dynamic strike, a strike that he had approved many days before, for which the theater commander had full permission to execute. We did shoot down drones and missiles in the Red Sea, our ships at sea, because he made sure they had the existing authorities and the capabilities and the training to do that. So he has been on top of these issues all the way throughout. Now, look, where your question kind of gets to is, and I've seen some of the sniping out there, how effective can the process be if the secretary can be gone and we don't know about it? I think what you need to understand, and what I hope people will understand, is that the national security decision-making process does not require, in fact, should not require, cabinet-level officials being the sole people in the room making decisions on any given day. You staff these things from the middle up, and then the cabinet officials, whether it's Secretary Blinken or Secretary Austin, come together as appropriate to make the key decisions, which happened. It happened on the 1st of January. If you'll bear with me, because I think your question really gets to a bigger issue, and I'd like to just, if I could, with Kareen's permission, I just want to walk you through a little bit of timeline here, because I think it's important context. So on the 31st of December, that was a Sunday, Jake Sullivan held a lengthy secure telephone conference with the Central Command Commander, General Kurilla, to discuss a bunch of issues, the situation in the Middle East. And of course, there's a lot to that. The next day, on the 1st of January, President Biden convened a secure telephone conference with Mr. Sullivan, with Secretary Austin, with the Joint Chiefs Chairman, General Brown, Secretary Blinken, the DNI, the CIA director, and other members of the team. They covered developments in the Middle East. President Biden directed the NSC, Department of Defense, and the State Department to accelerate work with allies and partners on a joint statement on the Houthi attacks in the Red Sea, which was to be issued, according to the president's direction, no later than Wednesday. You saw we did that. I came to the podium and read that out. From Monday, the 1st of January through Wednesday, the 3rd, the National Security Advisor, his deputy, Middle East Coordinator Brett McGurk, spoke repeatedly with their counterparts in multiple foreign capitals to secure the support for that joint statement. Senior NSC officials coordinated hour by hour with senior Pentagon officials who were also making phone calls and securing support from foreign partners. The president's final approval on that statement happened shortly thereafter, and as you know, it was issued on the 3rd of January. Also on the 3rd, there was a principals committee meeting on Haiti. And neither Secretary Austin nor General Brown attended. They were represented by deputies. That is not uncommon that at a principals committee meeting, for whatever reason, the principal may not be able to attend.
Okay, thank you for all the detail on that. But more broadly, why should we believe anything that this administration tells us about anything ever again?
I think we all recognize, and I think the Pentagon has been very, very honest with themselves about the challenge to credibility by what has transpired here, and by how hard it was for them to be fully transparent with the American people. I think we all recognize that. And wait, now just give me a second now. I know you got another one coming here, but we all recognize that this didn't unfold the way it should have.
Okay, so there's more to that, and we're going to go ahead and give that to you here in just a couple of moments. But I'm running out of time because of a technical glitch that we got to deal with. So anyway, that being said, we'll finish that particular piece of tape. But what you're hearing is an honest guy, Admiral John Kirby, spokesperson for the Biden administration on this particular case, talking a little bit about Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, the President of the United States being out of the loop, and a very good journalist asking questions. And yes, indeed, John Kirby's doing his best. We'll finish that story up in a moment. This is the Wells Report for Thursday, January 11th.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells with a very important exchange yesterday between Peter Doocy of Fox News and Admiral John Kirby, spokesperson for the National Security Council, and talking a little bit about some of the problems involved in Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin having a surgery. And I'm not going to tell any more about that because it's personal information, and he wanted to keep it private, and he couldn't do it because it all blew up in everybody's faces. But this is John Kirby trying to do his best to explain all of it to a journalist who is trying to get the answers. This is a good exercise in how it's supposed to work. So let's get back to that here on the Wells Report.
We all recognize that this didn't unfold the way it should have on so many levels, not just the notification process up the chain of command, but the transparency issue. We all recognize that. And I think we all want to make sure we learn from that. It's up to you and your colleagues, and it's up to the American people to determine, how much they're going to ascribe what happened here to our credibility on every single issue. But in every way, Secretary Austin has been an exceptional defense secretary, and he still has the full faith and confidence of the commander-in-chief. He has led the department at an incredibly dangerous time for our national security interests and those of our allies and partners.
But if the administration is going to go to such great lengths to keep secrets about the defense secretary's health, how can anybody be certain that the administration would not go to the same lengths to keep secret problems with President Biden's health in the future?
If you could logically argue, and you can't, but if you could logically argue that
He's 81 years old.
Wait a second. Just give me a second here, bub. I'll get there. If the administration made some sort of Machiavellian effort across the board to keep this from getting public, then I think your question has merit and certainly is a fair one. I don't think it's a fair one because that's not what happened here, Peter. What happened here is the Secretary of Defense, for whatever reason, I can't answer the question why, that information wasn't shared. It wasn't shared widely in the department, and it certainly wasn't shared with the interagency. It's not good. It's certainly not good, which is why, again, we want to learn from this.
Yeah. So this Machiavellian thing that's going on, I agree with John Kirby, has nothing to do with the Biden administration. This Machiavellian issue surrounding this entire story has to do with the people behind the Biden administration. Now, whether John Kirby knows anything about this obvious ruling cabal behind the Biden administration, because this administration is not being run by Joe Biden. Whether he knows anything about it or not, that remains to be seen. All I can tell you is that there is a Machiavellian process, and I suspect it goes along the lines similar to what I'm about to say. The people that are running the Biden administration knew about Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin from the get-go. They knew about the diagnosis in December. They knew about the procedure that he underwent. They knew that he had a tough time with it, ended up in ICU for 4 days. They knew all about it. But that wasn't President Biden. Biden wasn't put in the loop because nobody cared to put him in the loop. Why? Because he's not running the show. That's why. John Kirby's trying to explain it. Hey, we got problems with this process. We absolutely do. We're trying to learn from it. Okay, what are you trying to learn? If I was John Kirby, I would get on my horse and I'd start finding, why wasn't the president informed about Lloyd Austin? If President Biden wasn't informed about Lloyd Austin, who was? And why? Now, this is pretty easy to figure out. This is not something that is overly difficult to understand even. This is easily understood. What's going on here is the President of the United States was not informed because he doesn't need to be informed because he's not running the show. And oh, by the way, the next part of Peter Doocy's question, again, really good. How can we believe anything about President Biden's health? The answer, of course, is that ship has already sailed. Nobody knows anything about President Biden's health. Nobody gets to know. Does he have health problems? Yeah. Is he suffering from dementia? Probably. What's going on with Joe Biden? Nobody knows. Nobody wants you to know. And maybe that provided the impetus to not discuss what was going on with Lloyd Austin. Well, we don't talk about health issues in the Biden administration. So we just don't care. Why they didn't tell Joe Biden, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea, except, of course, what I've just said. I don't know any better, but I believe the reason they didn't tell Joe Biden is because they didn't have to. There was no reason to. because he's not running the show. I bet you Jake Sullivan knew. He's the chief of staff of Joe Biden's presidency. I bet you he knew all about it. Now, of course, we're never going to find that out either. We're not going to find out anything about that either. Because that would just be impolitic. Professional politicians don't do that kind of stuff. And Jake Sullivan certainly is one of those. And so, that's the state of play today. Lots of different things. Good debate last night. Good reactions to the debate last night. Good town halls. I think everybody won last night, at least in the 2024 election, and the rest of it is the rest of it. We'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks for watching The Wells Report. All right, my friends, my wonderful peopleage, my amazing folks. Let's see who we got here. Let's see. Who are they? Yeah, who are they? Boy, I sure would like to know, wouldn't you? Let's see. Yvonne, thanks very much for the sweet fishing shirt Friday. Maybe. It's too cold for a fishing shirt. I don't have a winter analog for fishing shirt Friday. Which, I mean, what starts with an F? You know, would it be fuzzy sweater Friday? I don't have many fuzzy sweaters. I don't like them. I don't. I mean, don't get me wrong. Angora sweaters are really, really cool, but only if I'm not wearing them. Come on, figure it out. Fishing shirt with a turtleneck. No, I got to figure something out. I'll figure something out. But remember, there's a lot of responsibility in that. I mean, you know, I can get you to go down and buy a $25 fishing shirt, a Magellan from Sports Academy Sports. I can do that. But this is a different kettle of fish. And I got to find something that starts with an F. So we'll figure it out. But yeah, I'd like to do that. I'd like to have some sort of analog, a winter analog for Fishing Shirt Friday. Fishing shirt under a sweatshirt. I have a Columbia vest. Okay, Columbia vest Friday? I don't know. All right, we'll figure it all out. God bless all y'all. Take good care. Be safe, okay? And I'll talk to you